that was a huge subject. Well, I was trying to teach English at this school, and I thought that I knew English and I knew lots of English grammar, and I ought to be able to do it just great. And I tried, and it was very unsuccessful. People were not learning, and they were very happy to keep trying, but it really wasn't working. And so not very far away from where we were, there was it was sort of a branch of the local community college. And I went there and I said, you know what, you have classes here for people to learn English, and I have these people that I know who are desperate to learn English, and they need a good school to learn it. And the professor who was teaching there said, well, that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for contacts into the community to people who would really like to learn English. So you're exactly on the same page that we're on. And so I introduced them, and the professor said, well, you can just come to classes here. And so they did. And I guess I had learned some English as a second language already by then. And so I took them. And it was quite a lot of people. And I didn't know much about learning English as a second language, but I took them. And so that was good. They were beginning to learn some things. And so I'm not quite sure how it worked out, but I talked to the professor, the head of the department there that taught ESL, and he said that he would really like me to have a job there. And I thought, well, that's exactly what I want. And so I got a job there, and I went on learning how to teach ESL at the same time. And I got much, much better at it because I was so enthusiastic. So the classes went on for several weeks, and then lo and behold, I had an entry point into how I was going to do this. And I did exactly what the professor said. And the lessons were beautifully organized so that, I can't remember to tell you it, but yes.
These might go with your outfit too.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
This one.
Lovely, yes, very nice, very nice. Okay, I can't quite really remember the sequence of things, but I was doing well and enjoying myself very much, and it was very well paid. They paid me like $50 an hour, and each session was 3 hours. So it was a nice little chunk, and I did that 3 times a week. And then they gave it to me twice. So I did 2 times, 3 times a week, which was just fascinating. And the main point of the classes was that when you try to learn a language and you're anxious about getting things wrong, not saying the grammar right, and not pronouncing things correctly and stuff like that, that you just sort of seize up like you do if you try to say something in a foreign language. Generally speaking, you can't do it. You use the few words you know, and that's all you've got. So I did exactly according to the way this wonderful professor taught me to do. And I did the So each session, so you would plan a series of lessons on a particular subject, like maybe on telling about where you went to school, because everybody's interested in telling where they went to school, and generally speaking people are interested in comparing the different methods in different countries and things, and different bits were successful. And this method was all about people having a very good fun time, so that they forgot about that they were trying to talk in a foreign language. And the lessons were planned so that you started with things that it was very hard for them to get wrong, and you progressed to things where they were using new sentences for them, new bits of language for them, and you went on until pretty soon they were being creative with the language that they had, and making fewer and fewer actual, what you might call, mistakes. They were really actually saying English things. And you didn't worry at all about things that they got wrong, because really at first, I mean, they didn't get a lot wrong. They really did follow what you were demonstrating. And it was fascinating, the method that they had. It was so clever. And I did do exactly as we were supposed to do. I was very, very obedient and also creative. And the professors were very pleased with me. And the students were very pleased with me, because they got to talk about things, and they were talking in English, and they were all laughing at the jokes, so it was obvious that they were understanding. And it was totally fascinating method. I absolutely loved it. I worked so hard on it. I would spend maybe 3 hours preparing the lessons for the next day, and I would put illustrations in, and I would bring in, music that went with it, and all sorts of extra bits that I would find around. And we did a whole series where we did Beatles songs and Nowhere Man and some of those, and we talked about all the, why would people sing those things, and of course Russian people would feel those things too, and it was just the best fun, and the students were so happy because they were really learning English. And I remember them telling me that the teacher that they'd had before they would come into the room, and she would say, "This is a rubber," and they would all say, "This is a rubber, and you can rub something out." And what a boring lesson, and also incorrect, because English people do not call that, American people do not call that a rubber. So I said, well, that's all very well, but it isn't a rubber. Americans call a rubber a condom, and that's not really something that you would be saying. And they all just thought that was hysterically funny. And one of the students said, well, how do I use a rubber? And everybody, there were a lot of very, very conservative Christian students. And so when they found out what "this is a rubber" meant, they were quite surprised. But anyway, yeah, so we learned lots and lots, and they learned lots and lots, and we got, it was hilarious. We were laughing and laughing. There were probably 70 people in the class, and so they were divided up into groups, but they got to know each other very well. They became good friends, and a lot of them had been in the Chernobyl area and had been exposed to that dreadful radiation and had very, very high blood pressure, and it was very hard for them to sit through the classes. And, you know, they were all being very careful to sort of distance the men from the women because there weren't enough tables to distance people. But they were so sweet the way they treated each other. I really got to know them well, and they came to our house, and they would have meals at our house, and they would bring meals to our house, and we would have parties together, and we did lots besides just the classes. That was just for fun. And there were some people who were very, very unused to the idea of learning in mixed classes, and that was a real challenge for them. Yeah. But they did all the testing. I made sure that I learned how to do all the testing, and I did a whole section about testing, and they were advancing rapidly. So they really, my classes did very well, and the professors were very complimentary to me, which was something that made me very happy. And there was one student who turned up, and she was Russian from Moscow. So pretty sophisticated lady, though she didn't know English. And she had such a hard time because she just got started in the classes, and the professors came and said to her, or not the professors, the managers came and said, but you can't do this because you are Russian and you have permission to be in this country, and so you can't do free classes. The only people who can do free classes are the what do you call it? Refugees, yes. And so I said, well, I know what we will do. So I went along to the management people and I said, well, I have a student who is a volunteer, and she's going to volunteer in my English classes. And they said, really? But she doesn't know English. I said, she's going to be very useful, you will see. She will pass out all the papers, and she will keep the records of all the grades that people get, things that I'm very bad at. And they said, well, all right. And so she did. She sat in all the classes, and she kept all the records, and she carried my books and everything like that. She was just super helpful. And meanwhile, she was learning faster than anybody else. And she really did well. And I moved her along up the grades so that she was with more and more advanced people. And then she applied to the college to do a master's degree there, and she did it, and she did really well. She got super grades, and she was promoted to doing PhD, and she did a PhD in English as a second language.
Wow.
I know, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And made her very happy, made all the other students were so happy that this was going on, because they could see what it was doing for her. And there were a couple of other students who asked if they could do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the